In previous videos, we talked to you about a series of developments of various Chinese submarines, such as the new generation of Type 093B nuclear submarines, Type 039C conventionally powered submarines and so on. Today we talk about the Kilo class, conventionally powered submarines in the early part of the 21st century. In total, China imported 12 Kilo class submarines from Russia. Currently, the first two have been decommissioned and donated to military theme parks. So why were the Kilo class submarines quickly decommissioned and donated? First, let's talk about the Kilo class submarines. Kilo class submarine belongs to the Soviet Union in the 1970s and 1980s development of 3,000 tons of large conventional power submarines. Underwater silence is very good, known as the ocean black hole. The Soviet Navy was once equipped with more than 20 Kilo class submarines, which were one of the main models of the Soviet Navy. As of today, the Russian Navy still retains more than 10 Kilo class submarines. Since the development of the Lada class submarine has been very unsuccessful, it is expected that Russia will continue to develop improved models based on the Kilo class. Next, let's talk about the development of the Chinese Navy's submarines. In the 1950s and 1960s, due to the limited conditions in all aspects, the Chinese Navy formed a coastal defense model consisting of shore-based fighters, underwater submarines, and various speedboats. In terms of underwater submarines, China launched the Type 033 conventional powered submarine by copying, developing and improving the Soviet class submarine. According to later records, China produced and built more than 100 Type 033 submarines in total, which belonged to the absolute main force of the Chinese Navy in the 1960s and 1970s. After the 1970s, China launched the new Type 035 conventional submarine after upgrading and improving the Type 033 submarine. Until a few years ago, there are still more than 10 Type 035 conventional submarines in service, such as Type 035B, Type 035G and so on. However, there is a big technological gap between Type 033 and Type 035 submarines and the European conventional submarines of the same period. In the 1990s, China started to develop a new generation of 039 series submarines. However, the development of 039 series submarine is very unsuccessful. There are various technical problems. For example, the first boat of the 039 submarine still follows many of the technologies and framework concepts of the 035 series submarines. Since their own technical conditions are not mature, they can only consider importing from abroad, and the importing country can only choose Russia. Under such circumstances, China ordered 2 Kilo class submarines, Type 877, from Russia in 1994, and the two submarines were delivered in 1996. In 1996, the two submarines were delivered, followed by 2 Kilo class Type 636 submarines ordered from Russia, and in 1999, 2 Type 636 submarines were delivered to China. The development of the domestic Type 039 submarine did not go well. The PLA Navy was relatively satisfied with the performance of the Kilo class submarines. Therefore, in the early 21st century, China ordered 8 Kilo class Type 636M submarines from Russia, belonging to the largest submarine procurement contract in the early 21st century. In the early years of the 21st century, 8 Type 636M submarines were delivered to China successively. It must be said that until the 2010s, 12 Kilo class submarines were the mainstay of the PLA Navy. Together with more than 10 Type 039G submarines, they formed the main framework of the Chinese submarine force. Especially the quietness and hull design are very good. To be fair and objective, China's importation of 12 Kilo class submarines serves two very important purposes. First, since the mid to late 1990s, it has solved the immediate needs of the Chinese Navy's submarine force. Secondly, China's gradual penetration of Kilo class submarine technology has contributed greatly to the development of Chinese submarines. For example, in the 2010s, China developed the new Type 039B conventional submarine. In terms of hull design and conceptual layout, the Type 039B submarine has obviously borrowed the technology and experience of the Kilo class submarine. So the addition of Kilo class submarines for the Chinese Navy has a very obvious role in promoting, somewhat similar to the Air Force imported Su-27, the ship force imported the concept of modern class destroyers. Of course, the traditional Russian-made weaponry also has many shortcomings, such as electronic equipment, integrated systems and other aspects have been lagging behind. The Air Force's Su-27, for example, uses the N001 radar, which has been jokingly called the backward card magic weapon. On the Navy's Hyundai-class destroyers, the transmission system is not fiber optic but copper wire. Later, the modern class destroyers of the mid-term upgrade, a considerable part of the work is the entire ship's copper wire replaced by fiber optics. This shows the level of Russian-made weapons and equipment in terms of electronic information and system equipment. After China imported the Kilo-class submarines, it did not lie on the basis of the Kilo-class, but developed its own models step by step. In the 2010s, the Type 039B conventional powered submarine was launched in 2022. A new generation of Chinese Type 039C conventional powered submarines entered service. According to foreign media reports, the Type 039C submarine adopts a variety of new designs and systems, and its comprehensive performance belongs to the same echelon as Japan's Great Whale class, Germany's Type 212A and other submarine models. Some foreign media even reported that the improved batch of Type 039C submarine adopts X-type rudder and has a 4-unit drogue system installed in the center. Since entering the 2020s, the development of China's nuclear submarines has been rapid. In this environment, China launched the nuclear and standing, nuclear-oriented development strategy. There have been various news of Type 041, Type 093B, Type 095 and Type 096 nuclear submarines. It is expected that the scale of China's nuclear submarine force will be further expanded. The number of nuclear submarine detachments may further increase. At the same time, the number of Chinese conventionally powered submarines, on the other hand, may be further reduced. Since 2023, according to Chinese official media reports, 2 Kilo-class Type 877 submarines have been decommissioned. They were donated after the removal of various key systems and data and are currently part of a submarine theme park. According to the timeline, the first 2 Type 877 submarines were commissioned in 1996. As of 2023, they have been in service for a total of 27 years. There are 2 reasons for the early decommissioning. First, the high intensity of the frequency of use in operational readiness mode, obviously reducing the service life of the submarine. Second, with the renewal of China's submarine force and strategic changes, the PLA Navy is also phasing out the old submarines of the 1990s. Not only the Kilo class, but also the early batches of the 035 series and 039 series are expected to be retired and sealed, donated or dismantled one after another. Another issue to consider is that the first batch of 2 Type 877 submarines served for a total of 27 years. The second batch of 2 Type 636S, which will have been in service for 26 years by 2025, have also reached the end of their service life. It is expected that the Chinese Navy will gradually decommission a variety of different older submarine types in batches over the next few years. The new generation of Type 039C conventional submarines and the legendary Little Killer Whale will complete the replacement of the old and the new.